Welcome back to the discovery. Settle into a comfortable spot, relax, and prepare to listen closely. You can simply close your eyes and let our story and knowledge envelop you. Or, if you prefer, follow along with the visuals we've prepared to illustrate the secrets we're about to uncover. Among the many deities mentioned in the scriptures, such as Dagon, Marduk, Ashtoreth, Asherah, and Tammuz, none resonate with the same frequency and intensity as Baal. His presence is pervasive, yet one episode in particular stands out for its drama and symbolism. The epic confrontation on Mount Carmel. There, Elijah, the prophet of Yahweh, or Yahweh, the tutelary God of Israel and Judah, openly challenges the 450 prophets of Baal. The challenge is simple, yet with cosmic implications. Which deity could summon fire from the heavens to consume a sacrifice? This narrative, though seemingly straightforward, conceals deep layers of meaning and context, largely unknown to most modern readers. To grasp its full scope, we must delve into the historical and cultural roots of that era. Who was Baal, this prominent god? What was the origin of his cult in Israel? And why was fire from the sky the central element of this divine test? Prepare to unveil the mysteries as we explore the ancient traditions and the complex relationships between gods and humans in the ancient Near East. The identity of Baal was common knowledge when the biblical texts were written. People in that region fully understood who he was, his attributes, and the stories surrounding him. However, over the centuries, the cult of Baal faded, and knowledge of this deity was lost, leaving only his name in the scriptures, stripped of its mythological context. For a long time, we only had access to condemnations of Baal, not the accounts of his own worshippers. This gap began to be filled in the early 20th century, specifically in the 1920s, with the discovery of the Ugaritic texts. Found in Ras Shamra, Syria, these clay tablets inscribed in cuneiform revealed a vast collection of stories about various Canaanite deities, including Baal, Asherah, and others. These texts were produced by the actual worshippers of these gods, offering an insider's perspective on their beliefs, myths, and rituals. The Ugaritic tablets are an invaluable source for understanding the West Semitic traditions that surrounded the ancient kingdoms of Judah and Israel, and which profoundly influenced not only their religion but also their material culture and politics. But what, specifically, do these texts reveal about Baal? Within the rich collection of Ugaritic texts, one set stands out, the Baal cycle. This epic narrates the fundamental journey of the god Baal, revealing his nature and his role in the Canaanite pantheon. According to the cycle, Baal's ascent begins with his challenge to Yam, the god of the sea. Yam, a powerful deity favored by El, the supreme god of the pantheon, is defeated by Baal. This victory elevates Baal in status, granting him a prominent position, to the point where he can claim a palace for himself, a representation of his own temple. Initially, El is reluctant to grant the request but is persuaded by other goddesses, such as Anat and Atharat, the latter, the Asherah of the biblical texts. With the palace built, Baal celebrates its inauguration with a grand banquet, inviting all the gods, with one notable exception: Mot, the personification of death and the god of the underworld. The omission enrages Mot, who threatens to swallow Baal, which indeed happens. Baal is swallowed, becoming inert, under the dominion of death, until he is rescued by Anat, his consort, and Shapash, the sun goddess. The text is somewhat fragmented, but the narrative suggests that Baal is revived, or, at least, there is a vision of his resurrection. A new confrontation then ensues between Baal, now resurrected, and Mot, who also somehow reappears. This time, Baal defeats death, and the cycle concludes with a hymn to Shapash. Although the narrative is not linear and contains gaps, the essence is clear. Baal is a god who rises to power, dies, and then returns. And, crucially, Baal is fundamentally a god of storms. His weapons are lightning, his voice is thunder. Consequently, he is also a god of fertility, as the rain he brings is essential for life, for the germination of fields, and for survival. This mythology reflects the understanding of natural cycles, The dry season is Baal's absence. When he reappears, thundering and raising his voice, the rain returns, and life flourishes again. Now that we understand the essence of Baal from the Ugaritic texts, the question arises, why were there so many prophets of this god in Israel? First, it is crucial to understand that the cult of Baal preceded the formation of the kingdoms of Israel and Judah. Temples dedicated to Baal already existed in various regions of Canaan and the Levant. Even after the consolidation of Israel and Judah, the worship of Baal persisted within these kingdoms, as evidenced by frequent condemnations in the biblical scriptures. Kings, too, were criticized for officially favoring the cults of Baal and Asherah. The authors of the Book of Kings themselves, who recorded the history of the monarchs, classified these leaders as bad for promoting gods other than Yahweh. The episode of the confrontation between Elijah and the prophets of Baal fits precisely into this context. King Ahab, who ruled Israel at the time, married Jezebel, daughter of Itobal, king of Tyre, a Phoenician territory north of Israel. This dynastic union brought Jezebel to court, and biblical texts hold her responsible for an intensification in the promotion of Baal's cults. However, it is important to note that Baal worship did not begin with Jezebel, nor did it disappear with her. Mount Carmel, for example, was already a site of Baal worship and would continue to be for centuries after Christ, with records of the cult of Zeus Heliopolitanus, a god identified with Baal Shamum, the Lord of Heaven. In antiquity, divine identities were not so rigid, and this fusion of Zeus with Baal, both celestial gods, bearers of lightning, and associated with storms, was common. While Zeus was the cloud gatherer in the Iliad and Odyssey, Baal was known as the one who rides on the clouds, a title, incidentally, also attributed to Yahweh in the Bible, but that is a story for another time. The cult of Baal endured for a long time in the region, and Ahab's reign is depicted as a period of significant growth for this worship. Elijah, a prophet fiercely opposed to Baal's cult, positioned himself to advocate for the exclusive worship of Yahweh, rejecting any syncretism. It is in this setting that we arrive at the challenge of fire from heaven, where Elijah summons Baal's prophets to the top of Mount Carmel. He instructs the prophets to prepare a bull for sacrifice, place it on the altar, and have their god ignite the fire themselves. Baal's prophets try, crying out to their god, but nothing happens. Elijah then taunts them, asking if Baal is asleep or perhaps absent. This provocation is not random. It's a direct reference to the myths of Baal, which speak of his death, absence, and return, especially during dry seasons, bringing the rain back. Elijah, in contrast, emphasizes Yahweh's constant presence. After the failure of Baal's prophets, who even wound themselves and enter trances, Elijah deliberately pours water over his own sacrifice and digs a trench around the altar, making the task of lighting the fire seemingly impossible, an act that only an all-powerful God could achieve. And indeed, Yahweh acts. Fire descends from heaven, consuming the sacrifice. What is this fire from heaven? We are in a context of a dispute between rain gods. The big question is, who truly brings the rain, Baal or Yahweh? Survival depended on this, as worshipping the correct God would ensure the land's fertility. In Deuteronomy, for example, there are passages warning that ritual disobedience to Yahweh could result in the closing of the heavens, stopping the rains. In this cultural context, religious negligence had cosmic consequences, such as drought. And, indeed, the episode of Elijah unfolds during a severe drought, which had already lasted 3 years, causing hunger and despair. The population urgently needed divine intervention for the rain to return. And then, fire descends from heaven. This is, in fact, a meteorological hierophany, a divine manifestation through celestial phenomena. Lightning. Lightning is Baal's traditional weapon, often depicted in Canaanite iconography wielding it. Zeus, too, hurled thunderbolts, setting oak trees ablaze. But, in this challenge, Baal fails to fulfill his role. The biblical text, therefore, highlights that the God who claims to wield lightning does not. The one who truly holds lightning and brings the rain, the harbinger of the storm and the beginning of the rainy season, is not Baal, but Yahweh. And for this reason, he is the one who should be worshipped, not the prophets of Baal. This is a polemical narrative, directly contrasting with the popular imagination of Baal in that era. Elijah's text redefines Yahweh's identity, presenting him as the true storm god, the wielder of lightning, the one who brings rain, and not Baal. It is no coincidence that after the lightning consumes the burnt offering, Elijah tells King Ahab, "Go up, eat and drink, for there is the sound of a heavy rain." This event is the unequivocal demonstration that Yahweh, not Baal, is the sovereign God. Elijah's very name literally means, "Yahweh is my God," which reinforces the text's central message. While the people of Israel were indecisive, wavering, with one foot in Baal's cults and the other in Yahweh's, Elijah firmly and unhesitatingly stands with Yahweh. A deeper understanding of this message, and the direct contrast to the imagery of Baal, is only possible when we recover the historical context through archaeological studies and the Ugaritic sources. If you find yourself intrigued by these connections and wish to uncover even more secrets from ancient times, there is much more to explore. And so, we conclude another journey through the veils of the discovery. We've delved into the depths of history and mythology, uncovering layers of knowledge that time has tried to erase. If you were captivated by this story and this exploration of the past, don't forget to like this video. It helps us continue to bring more content like this to you. And to make sure you don't miss any of our upcoming discoveries, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll be notified whenever we unravel a new mystery. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Discovery.